He was a man who climbed from the kitchen to the presidential palace, a ruler so contradictory that history still struggles to define him. For 8 turbulent years, his nation was both his kingdom and his slaughterhouse. Some hailed him as a liberating hero. The world would later condemn him as a monster. The true story of Idi Amin is a labyrinth of power, terror, and unsettling charisma. How did a boy with barely 4 years of schooling command an entire nation? And why do his ghosts still haunt Uganda? Our story begins in the mid-1920s, in a small village in northwestern Uganda. The boy born as Idi Amin Dada entered a world of colonial subjugation and profound poverty. His father abandoned the family, leaving his mother to scrape a living through farming and traditional healing. Young Idi received only the most rudimentary Islamic education. By his teens, he was functionally illiterate, but he possessed 2 formidable assets: a towering, powerful physique and a ruthless ambition. He first found work as a cook's assistant for the British colonial army, the King's African Rifles. It was 1946. The British officers quickly noticed this imposing recruit. He was a natural soldier, strong, fearless, and unflinchingly obedient in combat. He served with distinction against the Mo in Kenya, where his brutal efficiency during interrogations became legendary. One British report noted he was a splendid type, but needed a sharp eye kept on him. That warning would echo through the decades. By the time Uganda gained independence in 1962, Amin had risen to the highest rank an African could hold in the colonial forces. The new Prime Minister, Milton Obote, a shrewd and educated politician, saw a useful tool in the loyal, ruthless soldier. Obote promoted him, first to Deputy Army Commander and then to full commander. Amin rewarded this faith with absolute loyalty, but beneath his jovial, laughing exterior, a darker ambition was festering. He learned a brutal lesson: power flows from the barrel of a gun. The fragile political alliance between Obote and the powerful Baganda kingdom shattered in 1966. Obote suspended the constitution and ordered Amin to attack the Kabaka Sissasasalis. Tanks rolled through the capital. The ancient palace was set ablaze. The Kabaka fled into exile. In the smoldering ruins, Amin understood one thing clearly: he who controls the army controls the state. By 1970, Obote had begun to fear the weapon he had sharpened. He started transferring Amin's loyalists and planned to arrest him. But Amin's web of informants was vast. He knew the blow was coming. On January 25, 1971, while Obote was abroad, troops moved through the night. By dawn, Idi Amin controlled every strategic point in the capital. In a radio broadcast, he declared he had seized power to save Uganda from dictatorship. The streets erupted in celebration. The international community, including Britain and Israel, offered their support. They saw a pro-Western strongman. What they didn't see was the abyss that was about to open. The purges began almost immediately. Soldiers from Obote's ethnic groups were ordered to report for duty, only to be executed. Estimates suggest between 5,000 and 10,000 soldiers were killed in the first 6 months. The terror quickly spread beyond the barracks. A dreaded secret police, the State Research Bureau, began its work. Their methods were medieval: sledgehammers, torture, and bodies dumped in the Nile. Yet publicly, Amin maintained the image of a jovial leader. He swam in the river, played the accordion, and joked with foreign journalists. The world saw a buffoon. Uganda lived with a butcher. What drove a man to such extremes of cruelty and performance? In 1972, Amin's reign took a dramatic turn. He announced he had received a message from God in a dream. He must expel Uganda's Asian community. Around 80,000 people, who formed the backbone of the economy, were given 90 days to leave. Bank accounts were frozen, businesses seized, and lives uprooted. While many across Africa cheered this act of economic decolonization, the result for Uganda was catastrophic. The new owners had no experience. Factories closed and inflation skyrocketed. The nation was plunged into poverty. Internationally, Amin was now a pariah to the West, but he found new allies in Libya's Gaddafi and the Soviet Union. He fully embraced Islam and styled himself with ever more grandiose titles, including Conqueror of the British Empire. He even claimed to be the last king of Scotland, wearing kilts and offering to send troops to liberate Scotland. This was not mere madness. It was a calculated performance of power designed to make him seem invincible beyond question. His kingdom was built on a foundation of fear and stolen wealth. The peak of his international notoriety came in 1976. Palestinian and German hijackers landed a plane at Entebbe Airport. Amin supported them, separating Israeli and Jewish hostages. In a stunning raid, Israeli commandos flew thousands of miles, stormed the airport, and rescued the hostages, humiliating Amin and exposing his military's weakness. In retaliation, he murdered a 75-year-old hostage who had been left behind in a hospital. The Entebbe raid shattered his aura of invincibility. Could his enemies now sense blood in the water? By 1977, Uganda's economy was in freefall. Corruption was endemic, and Amin's response was to print money, causing hyperinflation. Basic goods vanished from shelves. The educated class fled. His paranoia deepened, and the purges reached into his own inner circle. Even his wife, Kay, died under mysterious and gruesome circumstances. The exact death toll of his regime will never be known, with estimates ranging from 100,000 to 500,000 souls. 1 in every 24 Ugandans may have been killed by their own government. The terror was random, its purpose to paralyze any thought of resistance. Yet, in some quarters, he was still loved. How could a ruler responsible for such suffering retain any support? In 1978, Amin made his final fatal error. He invaded Tanzania, hoping to unite the nation with a foreign war. President Julius Nyerere retaliated with force. With support from Ugandan exiles, Tanzanian troops pushed into Uganda. Amin's army, gutted by purges and corruption, crumbled. On April 11, 1979, Tanzanian forces entered the capital. Idi Amin fled north, eventually finding exile in Saudi Arabia. He lived there for 23 years, a quiet, monitored figure, never facing justice for his crimes. He died in 2003, and the Ugandan government refused to allow his body to be buried in his homeland. So, what is the final reckoning of this brutal chapter? The aftermath was a nation in trauma. Mass graves were discovered for years. Institutions were shattered, and trust was obliterated. There was no formal truth commission, no widespread accountability. The cycle of violence continued under Obote's return. It wasn't until Yoweri Museveni took power in 1986 that stability slowly returned. The scars, however, run deep, a generational trauma that still echoes. Idi Amin was a product of a colonial system that trained him for violence and a post-independence vacuum of power. He was a warning of what happens when authority faces no constraints, when institutions fail, and when the international community looks away. His story is not just Ugandan. It is a universal lesson on the corrupting nature of absolute power. The people of Uganda endured, rebuilt, and refused to let his darkness define them. Their resilience is the ultimate reply to his tyranny. If you found this journey into the heart of power and its perils compelling, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel Winds of Thought for more deep dives into history as most pivotal figures.